What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Sunday, April 14th, 2024, and I have an emergency update to share with you guys. Right now, it is 15:54 Eastern Time here in the United States, and I wanted to update you on the situation with Iran and Israel. So last night, Iran launched a massive attack on Israel. They launched over 140 missiles, including 110 ballistic missiles, 36 cruise missiles, and 185 drones. And out of all of those, only 7 missiles were able to actually reach Israel, and they caused minor damage and minor casualties. There was a coordinated effort by the US, Great Britain, France, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and possibly other allies to shoot down all of these missiles. So, good news to report there. However, it does appear that Israel is planning a massive counterattack that could occur as soon as tonight or tomorrow. NBC News is reporting that Israel could retaliate within the next 48 hours. And yesterday, some Israeli government spokespersons said that Israel would retaliate within 24 hours, and that was last night. So we could see an Israeli counterattack as soon as this evening. It's already sundown in the Middle East. So if anything happens, I will go live just like I did last night. And we do have U.S. nuclear forces on high alert still this afternoon. What you're looking at here are 3 nuclear war command and control planes and also a presidential doomsday plane that was flying with its transponder off. And these nuclear war command and control planes are responsible for communicating with our nuclear armed submarines and also for remotely launching our Minuteman III ICBMs. So we have 2 in the Gulf of Mexico, 1 in the Atlantic, and then we also have this presidential doomsday plane that was flying over Iowa, and it shut its transponder off shortly after taking off from Offutt Air Base, home of U.S. Strategic Command. So our military is still at Defcon 2. Defcon 2 is the second highest alert level for the U.S. military. The only level higher than Defcon 2 is Defcon 1. And Defcon 1 literally means we are at war. Okay. Now, another interesting thing is we actually also have this nuclear war command and control plane in the U.S. Virgin Islands, and it just took off from St. Croix. Okay, so it was sitting on the runway the last hour, and it has just took off from the U.S. Virgin Islands. That is extremely unusual, guys. And on Friday, we had a Sky King message go out. A Sky King message is the highest priority nuclear attack option broadcasted to our nuclear forces from the Pentagon. The only higher priority message over a Sky King message would be the emergency war order. An emergency war order is literally the order to launch. And we have nuclear attack options picking up this afternoon. We had a 268 character message go out just about 2 hours ago, 142 character message go out, and then we just had 3 shorter messages go out. So these are nuclear attack options. So they're starting to pick up now, and these planes right here are the ones broadcasting those messages to our nuclear forces. So our nuclear forces are at DEFCON 2, guys. Okay. And Al Arabia, citing Israeli political sources, is reporting that Tel Aviv, that's Israel, is looking to respond deep inside of Iran. And Israel's foreign minister said today, we said that if Iran attacks Israel, we will attack it back. And this is still effective. And Israel had their war cabinet meeting which just ended a few hours ago. Apparently, there was an intense discussion on how to respond. The Israeli War Cabinet has granted Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, the War Cabinet Minister Benny Gantz, and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant the power to make a decision on the response. And after the War Cabinet meeting this evening, the War Cabinet Minister Benny Gantz said Israel will exact a price from Iran in a way and time that suits us. Iran met the strength of the Israeli security system. And the IDF spokesman said, "We will respond with actions, not words." And Israel and its partners thwarted Iran's attack in an unrivaled manner, but the campaign is not over, Israel's defense minister said. Okay, so he's clearly saying it's not over. All right. And Bloomberg is reporting that France is recommending its citizens living in Iran to leave the country in wake of the attack on Israel, citing the risk of military escalation. The French embassy in Tehran told residents to use the utmost caution when traveling and to avoid all gatherings in the country. Iranian airports have suspended flights until 6 a.m. local time tomorrow morning. And some of the airports that have closed include the Mehrabad Airport in Tehran, the airport in Isfahan, Shiraz, Bushehr, Sanandaj, Alam, and Kerman, as well as other airports in the western part of Iran. So Iran is expecting strikes in Tehran and in the western part of Iran. And also what's interesting is some of the airports that have closed are close to Iranian nuclear facilities like Isfahan and Bushehr. Okay, Bushehr is where the Bushehr reactor is, and Isfahan has the Isfahan Nuclear Research Facility, and Natanz is also not far from Isfahan, okay? So clearly a sign that Iran is worried about an Israeli counterattack. And before I continue with the breaking news, I wanted to mention the sponsor for this update, which is Patriot Supply. Guys, Patriot Supply is doing a massive 30% discount on their 1-week emergency food supply. And to get the discount, you got to use the link in the description below this video, which is preparewithnYprepper.com. The normal price for their 1-week freeze-dried emergency food supply is $80. They're knocking it down to $50 for 1 week of emergency food with a 25-year shelf life, and it's all packed into a small lockable ammo can with a waterproof gasket. They also have a general store, and to get to their general store, you just got to click on the My Patriot Supply logo at the top of the page when you get to preparewithnYprepper.com. And their general store has everything you can imagine prepping and survival related, and they're always doing discounts. So check it out. Use the link preparewithnYprepper.com to get over 35% off of the My Patriot Supply 1-week emergency food supply, and also to get access to their general store. And they're always doing discounts there. I'll leave the link in the description below this video. And the Israeli Prime Minister's office said today Israel will consult with all its partners about responding to Iran, but Israel will make the final decision. Israel cannot leave such a comprehensive attack unanswered. This answer may be small or big. Okay, so they're basically saying we will respond. We're just not sure if it's going to be small or if it's going to be big. We will consult with our partners, but the ultimate decision is ours, okay? It's Israel's decision, not Biden's decision, okay? And according to Israeli media, there was intense debate during last night's and tonight's meeting of the Israeli War Cabinet on whether to launch a large-scale strike against Iran, which would target their command and control, nuclear and long-range missile sites, air bases, naval bases, and infrastructure, or if the Israeli response should be quote-unquote measured in order to prevent a regional conflict. So the big debate now is, do they go big and try to take out all of Iran's nuclear sites and all of their missile sites and some of their naval bases, their air bases, their radars, their air defenses, command and control? Or do they just do a very limited strike? In my opinion, they're going to go big, because regardless of whether or not Israel launches a limited strike or a full-scale strike, it doesn't matter. Iran is going to respond back with an even bigger strike than the first one. So they might as well go all out and try to neutralize the Iranian missile launch sites, so Iran doesn't have that capability anymore. Okay. And the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, has temporarily suspended the operation in Rafah. Wow. So that is a huge sign that he is preparing to go to war with Iran. Okay. He suspended the operation in Rafah. And the Israeli president said today that the Iranian attack was a declaration of war. And the Iranian president, Raisi, said our forces have taught Israel a lesson, and any new adventure will be met with a heavier reaction. Iran is threatening to hit U.S. bases if the U.S. helps Israel launch a retaliatory attack. Iran's top general Mohammad Bagheri warned. According to Bagheri, Iran's overnight strikes on Israel have achieved their goals and the military operation is over. And Prime Minister of the UK, Rishi Sunak, said British warplanes shot down a number of Iranian attack drones headed for Israel last night. White House National Security Council spokesman John Kirby said the following about the Iranian attack last night. Very little got through and the damage was extraordinarily light. This was an incredible success, really proving Israel's military superiority and, just as critically, their diplomatic superiority, that they have friends in the region that they have around the world that are willing to help them. He also said Biden does not believe that the Iranian attacks warrant expanding the scope of the war. Okay, so the Biden administration is against Israel launching a counterattack. Last night, Biden was trying to convince Netanyahu not to launch a counterattack, saying that because all the missiles were intercepted and the damage was very light, that it doesn't make sense to escalate now. But if you're Israel, a red line has now been crossed. Okay, Iran has directly attacked Israel. That is a huge red line. And if Israel does not respond, then who knows if in the future Iran is going to launch a surprise attack on Israel. Okay, and maybe in the future they're going to get nuclear weapons because they're tripling the amount of enriched uranium they're producing, according to the UN. Okay, so if you're Israel, this is a huge red line. You know, that would be like China and Russia launching a bunch of missiles at us, and then we intercepted them, and we said, well, we're not going to respond back because we intercepted all of them. I mean, it doesn't really matter. The intent was there. That's the most important thing. Iran literally launched over 300 drones and missiles at Israel. 300, guys. They didn't launch one missile. They didn't launch 5 missiles. They didn't launch 20 missiles. They launched over 330 drones and missiles that required half a dozen Israeli allies to assist in shooting them down. I personally believe that if it wasn't for Israeli allies like the US, the UK, France, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, that a lot of those missiles would have penetrated, okay? Because Israel does not have the capability to shoot down that many missiles at one time. And actually, it was U.S. destroyers that were moved to the northern Red Sea and to the eastern Mediterranean that were responsible for shooting down a lot of these ballistic missiles, okay? So if it wasn't for U.S. allies scrambling at the last minute, getting into position, I don't think these missiles would have all been shot down. I think probably maybe 60% would have been shot down by Israel, at least 50%. but I don't think it would be more than 75%, which would have meant lots and lots of Israeli casualties. So literally, Israel dodged a bullet on this one. They got lucky that they had allies that had the forces in position. They had the aircraft carrier strike group in the Red Sea already, and all they had to do was just move it. The U.S., all they had to do was just move it closer to Israel. But what if one day there are no allies in the region? Okay. What if there's a peaceful period and then all of a sudden Iran decides to launch a surprise attack when the U.S. is not around to help them? That's a very real possibility, and I'm sure Israel is calculating that. And a red line has been crossed, okay? This was a massive attack on Israel, okay? And the Russian Foreign Ministry has refused to condemn Iranian strikes on Israel, stating that Israel refused to condemn Ukrainian attacks on Russia, and Israel has even supported Ukraine in the war. So, very interesting. Russia siding with Iran, no surprise there. We know in the Bible that Russia will attack Israel with Iran in the latter days, halfway through the tribulation period. And Reuters is reporting that a Russian Navy frigate equipped with hypersonic missiles has entered the Mediterranean Sea through the Suez Canal as part of a planned exercise, according to Russia's Ministry of Defense. I really doubt that that's part of a planned exercise. Okay, this is Russia basically saying, listen, we have capabilities in the region if this escalates. Okay. So that is very serious. And there was a meeting of the G7 today. It was a virtual meeting, and they released a joint statement saying, "We affirm full support for Israel after the Iranian attack." And senior U.S. defense officials have now revealed that the Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyers USS Carney and USS Arleigh Burke were the two ships of the U.S. Navy that were in the eastern Mediterranean and launched SM-3 missiles to intercept between 4 and 6 Iranian ballistic missiles last night over Israel. So we had our Aegis destroyers involved in shooting down these missiles, guys. And by the way, it costed over $1 billion to shoot down all these missiles, okay? We used some of our best equipment, our best fighter jets, our best servicemen and women in this operation, okay? It required a lot of concentration, a lot of planning, a lot of coordination. This is not something we're going to be able to continuously repeat if Iran decides to strike again. And Israeli media is reporting that an immediate response with strikes within Iran was approved by a majority of the Israeli war cabinet, but was called off at the last minute following the Biden-Netanyahu phone call last night. So the war cabinet was about to launch an immediate response to Iran, but then Biden had a phone call with Netanyahu and they called off the immediate response. And American officials have been in constant contact with the Israelis and the Iranians through Swiss channels, according to Al Jazeera, citing a senior U.S. official. And the King of Jordan has stressed to Biden that the escalation needs to stop in the Middle East and warned against any Israeli action that expands conflict in the region. And he also said Jordan will not become an arena for a regional war. Okay, Jordan last night opened its airspace to the U.S. and to Israel and allowed the U.S. and Israel to fly their fighter jets and launch interceptor missiles over their airspace. And a report in the New York Times said Iran's leader, the Ayatollah Khamenei himself, ordered to attack Israel directly from Iranian soil in order to convey that Iran has moved from a state of strategic patience to a state of active deterrence. And Israel's successful defense against last night's missile and drone attack came at a high cost exceeding $1.3 billion. The sum encompasses expenses on jet fuel, missile interceptors, and other resources employed by the Israeli Air Defense Array. And Iran is threatening Jordan for shooting down their missiles last night, claiming Jordan should have assumed the missiles were not intended for them. Jordan said they shot down missiles that violated their sovereign airspace and that they will continue to defend themselves no matter who it is. And Emmanuel Macron, the Prime Minister of France, said, "We are working with our partners to stop the escalation in the Middle East." And Iran informed Turkey in advance of its planned operation against Israel, according to a Turkish diplomatic source. So interesting that Iran would inform Turkey, of all countries. And Tehran informed the U.S. ahead of time that it would launch a limited retaliatory attack against Israel for self-defense, the foreign minister of Iran said today. He also said that Iran's regional neighbors were given 72 hours notice that the retaliatory strikes were coming. And French forces, in cooperation with their hosting countries, helped monitor and detect drones and missiles launched from Iran towards Israel Saturday night, a French military source told CNN. And Tehran allegedly assured Turkey that it would not launch another attack on Israel unless Israel retaliated. And the Iranian regime has led the entire Middle East to the edge of the abyss with its eyes wide open, German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock said in a statement Sunday. The foreign minister said Tehran would have plunged an entire region into chaos had it not been for Israel's effective air defenses and strong partners. So, guys, this is very serious, okay? Iran launched over 300 missiles, and yeah, there was limited damage, but what if half of those missiles actually did penetrate through the air defenses, okay? We would be looking at hundreds of Israeli casualties potentially, civilians killed. They even launched missiles at Jerusalem last night. Here we have Jerusalem, and they launched missiles towards Jerusalem, the historic site in Jerusalem. And thank God that Israel has air defenses and they were able to intercept this. But here we have the Temple Mount, which is now the Dome of the Rock. This is the most holy site on earth, basically. And there's Iranian missiles flying towards it. Okay, that is a slap in the face to God himself by Iran. Okay, this is proof that we are living in the end times, guys. Okay. So these are actually fragments of missiles after they were shot down over Jerusalem. And I want to remind you guys that these missile fragments, they're not small. You know, they're not like a piece of aluminum foil or something. These missile fragments weigh hundreds of pounds, giant pieces of steel with sharp edges. Okay, they could land on someone's house and kill the occupants. So, you know, just the fragments alone can kill people, okay? But this is very provocative by Iran to launch missiles at Jerusalem, okay? This is so surreal, guys. You know, I always tell you guys to get prepared to have a bug out bag, a nuclear war survival plan, but the most important prep is your relationship with Jesus Christ. Make sure that you have a good relationship with God and that you're repenting for your sins. Everybody is a sinner, myself included, but we all have to repent and try to work on ourselves so we're more like Jesus. And here we have some footage released by the Israeli Air Force showing them shooting down Iranian drones with their F-16s. Check it out. You can see that drone right there. And then an air-to-air missile launched by the Israeli fighter jet hitting the drone and causing that massive explosion. Look at that. So very impressive work by Israel and also by the US and Britain and France and Jordan and Saudi Arabia. You can actually clearly see the drone right there. And these are the same drones that Russia has been using against Ukraine in the war over there. So here we have some footage coming out of the Israeli War Cabinet meeting this afternoon. Okay, you can see Netanyahu over there on the right. You can see Yoav Gallant and Benny Gantz on the left. And then you can see over here Herzi Halevi, the chief of staff. Okay, so that's the latest information that I have on the situation. And I will be monitoring it very, very closely this evening. And if anything happens, I will go live and I'll keep you guys updated. And a lot of people have been reporting that they can't find my channel on YouTube. So the easiest way to find my channel is when you search in YouTube, type at NYPrepper, at like your email, the A symbol with the circle around it, NYPrepper, no spaces, one word, at NYPrepper. That'll pull my channel up, or you can just go to youtube.com/NYPrepper. That'll also take you to my channel. So until later on this evening, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere.